As we look over at this large ledger stone right beside the church's narthex, what we're looking at is the grave of Colonel John Redford. John Redford was the first veteran buried in this cemetery. Did not fight in the American Army, he fought for the British, but didn't fight in the Revolution. He's actually earlier than that. Colonel Redford served in what's called King George's War. That was a segment, a much smaller segment of what we know collectively as the French and Indian Wars. Now, when we talk about the French and Indian Wars, we tend to imagine frontier fighting, something like you see in Last of the Mohicans, all these conflicts going on in the woods, the forests of the great Northeast. And while that's largely true in many respects, there was also great concern about conflict here in Monmouth County. When you look at just how close we are to the ocean, you can begin to understand that a French invasion by sea was a very, very real prospect. In order to counter that prospect, we have Colonel John Redford being put in charge of Monmouth County militia troops. These troops were in charge of keeping coastal watches at places like Deal, the heights of the Navesink, Manasquan. They would watch constantly for the possible French invasion by sea that luckily never came. But if you're wondering just how real of a prospect that remained well into the 20th century, all you'd have to do is to go down to local sites like Battery Lewis in the Atlantic Highlands, the fortifications around Sandy Hook, or even down Cape May at the Watchtower. That remained a very real prospect well into the 20th century.